everyone, greetings from Taktse International School. Welcome to my class. I am going to be your science teacher for the next few minutes. The topic that I am going to deal with today is coal and petroleum. And I have listed down a few lesson objectives that we are going to be doing today. The first one is recognizing non-renewable natural resources. Second, understanding the features of coal and petroleum, their uses and their formation. And the third one is environmental impacts of mining, usage of coal and petroleum. Before we go into the depth of coal and petroleum, I would like to focus on the resources. Now, resources are something that is very beneficial for us and have a lot of value. And knowingly or unknowingly, we use it domestically or industrially in our everyday lives. There are two kinds of resources, natural and man-made, which we are going to deal with both in this lesson and the following lessons. So first, let me focus a little bit on man-made resources. They are synthetic fibers and plastics, and all of us have used this once in our lifetime or the other. The next one that I'm going to move on with is natural resources that are very important for us. Now, there are two kinds of natural resources, renewable or inexhaustible. Renewable resources or inexhaustible resources are something that is available to us naturally, and even if we overexploit it or overuse it, nature is going to recycle it for us. So some of the examples are energy from water, air, wind, and energy from the sun, etc. Then other one is non-renewable or exhaustible resource. Now these resources, even though it is naturally available to us, they are exhaustible. That is, if we overuse it or overexploit it, sometime or the other, it is going to get over. Some of the examples for non-renewable resources are coal, petroleum, and wood. And all of these non-renewable resources are basically used as fuels. And fuels are nothing but something when burnt produces a lot of energy. Now let us begin a little more in depth about our first topic, that is coal. Before we proceed, I would like you to remember three things: that coal is a natural resource, it is available to us in nature. It is non-renewable, that is, if we overuse it, it's going to get over with time. And the third one is, it is going to be used as a fuel, and it is categorized as a fossil fuel. And we are going to deal with a little more about fossil fuel in the later half of this chapter. Firstly, I would like to tell you a brief historical background about coal. Now, the usage of coal has been traced back during the caveman time. Even in the 2nd and the 3rd century, Romans popularly used coal as a source of fuel. It gained a massive popularity during the Industrial Revolution in the 17th and the 18th century. And finally, during the 1700s, the Englishmen realized that coal can be used as an excellent alternative to wood because it produced a lot more energy than wood did. So when we study the historical background about coal, we realize that the most popular usage of coal was fuel. And other uses included running steam engines and heating apartments in cold countries. The popular modern uses for coal includes definitely as a fuel. The most important use of coal today is generation of electricity in most of the countries in the world. And lastly, it is a major source of fuel for big factories and industries in order to produce industrial products like cements, iron, steel, etc. So the most important thing about coal that we have to understand is its formation. Now, as I mentioned earlier, coal is categorized as a fossil fuel, and the term fossil tells us that it has been derived from fossils, meaning it has been derived from dead plants and animals. However, coal has been derived only from dead plants. Now, it did not happen overnight. It required millions of years for coal to form. Hence, as mentioned earlier, coal is a non-renewable resource. So even if it is formed at one point, it is going to take millions of years for the formation of coal. Now let us proceed for the actual process of formation of coal and how it exists in today's world. 300 million years ago, you can imagine the earth to be full of swamps and wetlands, covered with large and huge trees and vegetation. As a lot of changes started to happen on earth, these plants started to fall on the surface of the earth after they died. Now, due to geographical processes like soil erosion, earthquakes, floods, wind, all of these plants started to get buried under the surface of the earth, and they were covered with dirt and mud. Now, over time, what happened was, due to external factors like pressure, a lot of heat was generated under the surface of the earth. Now, these dead plants got compressed, and finally it got transformed into something we have today, which is coal. Now, this process takes millions of years, and to be precise, 300 million years to happen. The process is known as carbonization. These plants comprises basically of carbon with a little bit of other elements like hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, etc. And this, once compressed, gets transformed into coal, which also comprises of carbon with a little amount of hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, etc. Let us talk a little more about coal now. This is a part of a structure of coal. The black balls represent the carbon, and it is arranged in a ring-like structure. Coal, as all of us have seen, is a black rock-like structure which is porous, meaning it has air spaces in between it, hence it is not hard as rock, but it is also categorized as a sedimentary rock. Coal can be easily combusted to produce a lot of energy, and it produces gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. Now, one thing we have to remember is that coal, when extracted from mines, is not directly used, but it is processed into a much purer form. One of the products is coke, which has a lot of carbon content in it. During this process, we also get two byproducts, coal tar and coal gas, which is beneficial to us in many areas. Coke is basically used as a fuel. Coal tar is used for medicinal and industrial purposes. For medicinal purposes, coal tar is used to treat skin diseases. Coal gas is used to light street lamps and also for fuel purposes. So students, we've seen the importance of coal in our lives. It has been used during the olden times as well as in the modern times. However, using of coal affects our environment and also our health adversely. Now I'm going to list down some of those adverse effects. Mining of coal can damage our ecosystem as well as landscapes. It can also trap miners, cause suffocation, and ultimately lead to their deaths. Miners also get affected with black lung diseases because of a lot of carbon particles in the air. Now, burning of coal produces toxic gases that causes air pollution and ultimately causes respiratory illness. Burning of coal also produces some greenhouse gases which increases global warming. Let us now begin with our next topic, that is petroleum. Before we proceed, I would like you to remember similar three things that we remembered for coal. First, petroleum is a natural resource. Second, it is a non-renewable or exhaustible resource, and it is a fossil fuel just like coal. Petroleum was actually discovered in America in 1859. However, it lost its popularity when Thomas Edison discovered electrical light bulbs, as petroleum was widely used in lighting lamps. Now finally, when the discovery of automobiles took place, it again regained its popularity, and we know how important and widely it is used in today's world. We also refer to petroleum as crude oil, as it is the raw petroleum that is extracted from the earth. Now, there are very important and popular uses of crude oil. However, we should remember that as soon as we extract the crude oil or the petroleum, we do not use it as it is, but we have to separate them. So we can imagine that it is a mixture of various kinds of liquid which by a process of fractional distillation is separated. Now I would like you to focus on this illustration where I am going to explain some of the uses of crude oil and how it is separated. Now, as I've already mentioned that crude oil or petroleum is a mixture of different liquids and they boil at different temperatures. Now, if you closely look into the picture, you will see that petroleum gas is right at the top. So, as temperature is applied to this furnace, petroleum gas will be separated at a temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. And petroleum gas is nothing but the natural gas we use for cooking, the LPG gas. Next, at 25 to 60 degrees Celsius, gasoline is separated out, and gasoline is majorly used for running automobiles and small vehicles. At a temperature of 60 to 180 degrees centigrade, naphtha is separated out, and mostly naphtha is used to produce various kinds of chemicals. At a temperature of 180 to 220 degrees Celsius, paraffin separates out, and this fraction helps us run large aeroplanes. Next, we have diesel, which boils out at 220 to 250 degrees centigrade, which helps us run large automobiles like trucks and buses. At 250 to 300 degrees Celsius, we have fuel oil, which runs our large ships and vessels. At 300 to 350 degrees Celsius, lubricating oil is used, and these are used for various domestic and industrial purposes. And finally, the most heavy, that is bitumen, is boiled out at 350 degrees centigrade. Bitumen is used to tar roads. Just like coal, petroleum is also a fossil fuel. Now let us learn a bit more about the formation of petroleum. Coal, as I mentioned, was formed from dead organisms. Petroleum, however, is formed from organisms in the ocean only. Today, petroleum is found in vast reservoirs where ancient seas were located. So, it can be found under the land or under the ocean. Now let us look at the illustration that has been given here. Millions of years ago, where there were oceans, aquatic animals started to die. As they died due to various geographical processes, these dead organisms were buried under dirt and soil similar to that of coal. With time, it got transformed into something which we find today, that is petroleum. So in a gist, it was formed by the action of a lot of heat, pressure and time in the absence of air and water on dead organisms in the oceans, with the similar process to the formation of coal. Now let us discuss some of the popular properties of petroleum. It looks like a very black liquid with a little bit of greenish tinge, and it can range from being very thin to very thick. And thickness is also referred to as being viscous. Its components are mainly carbon, and I am holding one of the structures of petroleum, one of the possible structures of petroleum. So it mostly comprises of carbon, which is represented by the black ball over here, and with a little amount of hydrogen, oxygen and other atoms. So this is a general structure of a petroleum. Knowingly or unknowingly, we have been using fossil fuels, be it domestically, industrially or even personally. We go to school every day on cars, use electricity, and the list is endless. Using of fossil fuels has so much adverse effects on our environments. Burning of petroleum creates a lot of pollution because it produces very toxic gases like nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxides, and many more. These causes acid rains, and acid rain adversely affects monuments, it affects vegetation. They also cause air pollution, which I've already mentioned earlier, causes various respiratory illness to humans and even leads to cancer. Environmental awareness is not a new topic for us, and in order to save our planet, we have been doing various kinds of things. Now, directly related to the use of petroleum, because we use vehicles and automobiles in a large scale, catalytic converters are installed in automobiles, where the gases that the exhaust produces are converted into less harmful gases before they are released. So, carbon monoxide is converted into carbon dioxide. Nitrogen oxides are converted into less harmful nitrogen. This is only one of the ways that we can help our environment, reduce air pollution, and reduce global warming. So students, I hope you enjoyed the lesson and the learning today. So before we end, I would like you to do a short activity. There are a lot of coal mines and oil rigs in India. You can take a blank map and then mark all the locations of oil rigs and coal mines in India.